because the bullets they start tumbling after, 100, 200 yards. It's not 5.56.
Well, they haven't even said what caliber it is yet. And, we're not talking about someone, going and precisely shooting. It was a fish in the barrel kind of situation. There's 22,000 people down below, and they're just, spraying rounds into the crowd. So, yeah, I understand, your distance and ballistics and all that. But even 300 yards with, a larger caliber rifle is going to be deadly, and obviously was deadly.
So I told you this was going to happen last night. Every time there's a mass shooting, we tell you this is going to happen. They're going to try and come for our guns. Here's a tweet. Senator Richard Blumenthal calls for gun control legislation on MSNBC. Congress has been complicit. We ought to honor the victims by acting. Lena Dunham. Gun control is the only answer to a question we shouldn't even be asking. Ashley Tisdale. I don't want to react anymore. I want to respond. Notice these people all have armed security, or they lived in armed palaces. The senators have armed guards, but they want you to be unarmed. Here's the New Republic back in 2015. It's time to ban guns. Yes, all of them. Ban guns, all guns. Get rid of guns in homes, on the streets, and as much as possible on police. Now, let me ask you this question. And we're going to go. The reason I'm jumping in here, Roger, is because we have some breaking news from a caller from Las Vegas who's been there all night. I want to go to him in 1 second. How many criminals are going to turn in their guns when asked to? How many? Anybody got an answer? It's a big fat zero.
None.
They're not going to, criminals don't turn in their guns because they're criminals and they're going to keep their guns. So just remember that when you call for gun control legislation, the only ones who will have guns will be the criminals, and you will be overrun. You will be a victim. So don't forget that. Now let's go to Luca in Las Vegas, who's been in Vegas all night, and he says he's confirming multiple shooters. Go ahead, Luca. Where were you staying last night?
I was about 4 miles out. I heard the shot. I heard the responders. But what's interesting to me is there's about 5 shooters. It's just not adding up. I have friends that were at the concert. So there's 1 dead. They're saying there's 2 wounded and 3 missing. But they're only saying there's 1 suspect, and he was.
Who's they? Could you clarify real quick?
Yeah, who's saying they?
Police Department.
Okay. And they're saying they have 1 suspect dead and 2 missing?
No, that's what I got on the scanner last night. But the press release is saying they only have 1 lone wolf suspect right now.
But then on the police scanners, they're saying they're missing 2, which could be that couple that people were alluding to earlier in the night.
They're missing 2's wounded, they said, and 3 is missing. And I was listening to it all through the night for about 8 hours. And another thing that's interesting is if you look at the numbers, 9/11/01, the festival's called Route 91 on October 1st, 9/1/10/1. Now, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but that was just odd to me that I had to bring that up to you guys. But there's multiple shooters. There's multiple angles. I don't know what to say. They're hiding something. I wish I could figure it out. But, I was on the police scanner all night, and reports of multiple hotels, multiple shots, multiple shooters, and they're only saying 1 suspect right now. It's real odd.
Yeah, I was seeing tweets last night. The Bellagio was also reporting shots, but then when I did some further digging, that was from March 25th. So it's very interesting. So you're claiming they killed 1, 2 are wounded, and 3 are missing. That would be 5 shooters in total. That's what you're saying.
Right. And last night, they said 6, but it went down to 5 a couple minutes later. But there's shots reported, multiple casinos, multiple shots from different spots, and it was confirmed that it was automatic rifles.
Yeah.
And the police.
What you can hear from the video.
They're trying to say it's semi-auto.
Well, like we were saying earlier in the show, I don't know if you're listening, it could have been a semi-auto rifle outfitted with some sort of trigger device in order to make it shoot at a higher rate of speed.
It's like a little crank.
Yeah, it's just not adding up. I don't know why they're saying there's 1 guy trying to make the public feel safer, but no one here feels safe. Everyone knows that there's more than 1 guy, and I don't know what their motive is by saying, 1 suspect. It's not helping anyone.
Well, we played video from 2 witnesses earlier who were adamant that there was multiple shooters. They were adamant about it. And then we played the video from the young lady who said she saw a lady getting a confrontation saying, "You're all going to die. You're all going to die here."
Right,
and then 45 minutes later, people are shot.
Right. And there's some alarming things about what that lady said, too. They kind of from what I've seen, they kind of locked the exits after that lady came in. And the guy had over 10 firearms in his room, and they're saying that the other suspects had more.
Wow. Well, I would say if you have, do you have recordings of this scanner footage, or were you just listening to it live?
I was just listening to it live. I was actually streaming it last night because the police scanner were getting overloaded, so I started streaming it on my own. Had about, like, I don't know how many thousand. I had a couple thousand listeners. I don't have anything recorded, but I mean, everyone in Vegas right now knows that there's more than one shooter. Everyone knows.
All right. Well, let's get Roger Stone's reaction to this. Roger, what do you think of this? You're hearing one shooter, one shooter, one shooter at the end of the night, but now we have witnesses saying multiple shooters, and we just had this guy listening to the scanner, Luca in Las Vegas, saying there could be 5 shooters.
You know, really what this points out is the new technology really lends itself to citizen journalism. Before the internet, before InfoWars, before the ability to listen to the police radio scans, we would have taken the government's word for whatever happened. They would tell us what would happen, and we would believe it. Now, it's not clear whether there's one shooter or whether there's 50, but I think it is very healthy that we can even discuss and pursue all of the leads without counting on the mainstream media to define for us the narrative that they then will flip and use an excuse to take our guns, no matter what the facts are. So I actually think it's very interesting to see it unfold.
It is, and it's flowing fast and furious, to take the name from the gun running program, where our government was sending guns down to Mexico to try and blame the Second Amendment. So anytime the liberals can blame the Second Amendment, they do that. I want to go to one more caller who's been waiting for a while, Roger, and then you can get back to your interview. Let's go to Steve in California. He wants to talk about sniper logistics. Steve, do you have experience in this field?
No, I've studied it for, 10, 15 years. I own several weapons myself, my wife and I. But as you know, if the shooter was on, so let's say the 30th floor, 32nd, whatever, that's around 450 feet. And Pythagorean theory, you have to take the height and the distance and subtract the in between. C plus A equals B. And that's around 300 yards. A belt-fed machine gun would be that. I don't think that was a strobe light. That was obviously muzzle flash. And I was in the hotel and casino, or hotel and nightclub business for 30 years. And you don't put a strobe light in the middle of a hotel on the 4th story up. And two, the professional hit team would have knocked that window out with some sort of heat source, and then put the window right back in, glued it back in, and been out of there in probably 3 minutes when the super quick drying glue. So if anybody gets to get in there, they need to look for the window change in that room somewhere on the 4th floor where the window has been glued out and glued back in so fast. And that was because the bullets they start tumbling after 100, 200 yards. It's not 5.
Well, they haven't even said what caliber it is yet. And, we're not talking about someone, going and precisely shooting. It was a fish in the barrel kind of situation. There's 22,000 people down below, and they're just, spraying rounds into the crowd. So, yeah, I understand, your distance and ballistics and all that. But even 300 yards with, a larger caliber rifle is going to be deadly, and obviously was deadly.
I must say, I'm impressed with Brother Zimmerman's knowledge of the of firearms technology here. It's illuminating, in all seriousness. Just the fact that we're asking all these questions, that people are calling in this kind of vital information, shows you, that this is the new news source. You won't hear this on CNN. They'll only tell you the government line. Here at InfoWars, we're committed to bringing you what's happening as it happens.
And most of these reporters don't have this type of knowledge. They're not thinking about firearms in that way, because probably most of them don't shoot. Most of them probably just go along about their life, hoping they have armed guards around them at all times to protect them. Meanwhile, here at InfoWars, we talk about self-sufficiency, self-reliance, protect yourself, protect your family, don't wait for the police. And that's the mindset that we have going forward. So anytime something like this happens, those are the questions that we are asking here. Steve, thanks for calling. We got a minute left. Sean in California, I'll give you a minute, and we're going to break, so make it quick.
How's it going?
Going great. Go ahead.
Pleasure to speak to all you guys. I just wanted to point out that I'm not a gun expert, but I am an enthusiast. And going back to, like, I think it was 92 when Hollywood had that big, robbery, they were using, I think, AK-47s, but modified. And it kind of reminded me of the same sort of style that maybe could have been pushing out of the fire, like the actual, firepower. But like I said, I'm only an enthusiast,
Sure. Well, no, I remember when that happened. I remember that breaking out on TV.
And we'd just like to hear, in the next day or so, what guns were used.
What kind of guns were
tell
used?
us. You're
That'll answer
telling
a
us
lot of
there's 10 of them. Sure. Tell us what was used.
All right. We'll be back with Roger Stone and his guest, Gerald Posner. And once again, you can support us at InfoWarsStore.com. You're watching The War Room at InfoWars.com/show. Thanks for watching.
In ancient times, man roamed the earth in a constant state of hunting or being hunted. Introducing Caveman, where cutting-edge science meets ancient super nutrients. Secure your bottle right now at InfoWarsStore.com.